Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining this fabulous panel of women in tech, where you'll get to hear from 4 outstanding recent alum about their experience in the program as they share advice for fellow women in tech who are researching and considering the Executive MBA. My name is Kim Randall, and I work as the Associate Director of Recruitment and Admissions with the Executive MBA at the Ivey Business School. And I'm really excited to be moderating this event to spotlight this incredible sector and the strong female leaders who have come through the program and are doing really important work in the tech space. Before we begin, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement, and then we will have an opportunity to hear an introduction, and you'll get a chance to get to know the panelists who are speaking today. So without further ado, I'd like to acknowledge that Western University is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenapehoik, and Chinungtan nations, on lands connected with the London Township and Sombra Treaties of 1796 and the Dishwith-Funspoon Covenant Wampum. With this, I respect the longstanding relationships that Indigenous nations have to this land, as they are the original caretakers. We acknowledge historical and ongoing injustices that Indigenous people endure in Canada, and we accept responsibility as a public institution to contribute towards revealing and correcting miseducation, as well as renewing respectful relationships with Indigenous communities through our teaching, research, and community service. And this is an important part of every event hosted in relationship with Western and by extension the Ivey Business School. And I hope that if anyone is in London, Kim, I know you're based in London, if anyone's visiting London in the next month or so, that you will visit campus and actually visit our new Indigenous learning space, which is set to be revealed in November, to really bring people together to celebrate Indigenous communities, ways of learning, pedagogies, and the relationship that is continuing to grow, to mend, and to develop out on campus. So with that, I would like to reiterate that I'm very grateful that everyone is here today, particularly these all-star panelists. And with that, I'll maybe pass it over to do some introductions. I'm very interested to hear who you are. I'm sure our guests are interested to know what you do for work. And tell us just a bit about yourself and when you were in the program and whatnot. So Kathy, can we start with you? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Isaac. I am an EMBA 2020 student. So I graduated at the cusp of the pandemic. And so we were the last full cohort to go through the entire program as it was designed, which I feel pretty privileged about. I live in the Toronto area, and I work for a small SaaS company based out of Nova Scotia called Carbide, and I'm the Vice President of Customer Success there. We make a cybersecurity program management platform that helps growing companies build their cybersecurity programs.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. Kim, can I pass it over to you?
Sure. So I'm located in London, as you've mentioned already, London, Ontario, not the fancy London, England. I just finished my last term this July. I've been in IT for 15 years. I started as a developer myself, so I'm no stranger to writing code. But I just naturally moved into project and program management. Just like the ability to look at the big picture and create value and bring in positive change. I currently am a director at Menulife, director of retirement transformation program.
Thank you, Kim, and thanks for being here. Chola, you're next.
Thanks, Kim. Great to be here to actually be with all of these great women leaders. So my name is Chola. I'm based out of Toronto, I live in the GTA area. Similar to Kim, I actually just completed the last module, in the June-July sort of timeframe. So we actually went through the entire sort of experience of starting completely virtually in the middle of the pandemic, and then sort of really transitioning into the in-person. So we got both sides of the experience, the virtual and the in-person experience of the program. I actually work at RBC. I'm the vice president leading the retail credit technology portfolio. Started out as a developer 20 plus years ago, and have over the years sort of taken on various different technology and leadership roles. And this is where I am right now in my journey.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And Sarah, last but not least, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Kim. So I'll share. I finished the MBA program in 2021. So actually, I joined started the program right when the pandemic started. So we had the in-person experience initially, and then we transitioned to online. But then we were able to get back to a little bit of an in-person as well as the program progressed. I graduated in October 2021, a little less than a year ago. I've been in IT for about 20 years, and I am currently the Senior Director of Cybersecurity at Kinross Gold Corporation. It's a Canadian gold mining company. My mandate is to lead a team of security professionals to run the cybersecurity program for the entire organization. And I'm located in Toronto. I live in the GTA and I work in downtown Toronto.
Thank you. And for anyone listening in and who's hearing that Kim's based in London and Kathy, Chola, and Sarah are based in Toronto, what you'll find in the Executive MBA is that participants actually join from not only Ontario, but actually all across the country. So the schedule, we'll hear more about how you manage the schedule, but because it meets once a month in either in Toronto predominantly and occasionally in London for residence meets, it does present opportunities for individuals to join from out of province throughout the program. So with that being said, and with these great introductions now behind us, and we know a little bit about these all-star panelists, I'm really interested to hear from each of you how you decided it was the right time in your career. Why was it important, and how did it align to do the Executive MBA? And as my second part to that, I'm very curious to know, and I'm sure the folks who are joining today are also curious to know, why Ivey? Sarah, why don't we switch the order around, and we'll start with you.
Sure, of course. For me, is really as I was working on my professional growth, and as I was achieving success within my area of expertise, which is IT, at certain point, it became apparent to me that I needed to expand my knowledge in different areas of business. To be able to get me to the next level of my career, I needed to learn how to speak the business language and get out of my comfort zone, or the area of technology and the area of IT, which I'm very comfortable with. So I spent some time researching the top schools in Canada, and I found the courses offered by Ivey are the most aligned with what I was looking for. From accounting to marketing to the finance, the different courses that the program offers. And in addition to that, actually most of and many of my coworkers here at Kinross are also Ivey alumni, including my boss. So I had good references that can attest to the quality of the program.
Great, thank you for sharing. Chola, what about you? How did you decide it was the right time for an Executive MBA, and why did you choose Ivey?
Yeah, like for me, like I've always held technical or roles within the technology space, and so inherently I'm sort of a very analytical person, that's what my strength is and that's what I'm passionate about. But Sarah said, as I took on more senior leadership roles, I kind of felt I needed to have a better sense on and to learn more about the broader aspects of how you run a business. Yes, even though I manage like a technology and I lead a technology team, I think, reflecting back, it was really a great decision, because you still need to understand what are the different aspects of running a technology team as if you were running your own business. Personally, I knew, even when I signed up for this program, that I had no real intentions of like moving to another profession, like I have no intentions of becoming a finance expert or an accounting expert. So that's really not what I was actually looking for in a program. And so what I really sort of focused on is things that would give me a really broad sense and a broad view of what the program provides, in addition to sort of the emphasis on the global aspect of it. And I know that Ivey has, in that third term, a real emphasis on the global aspect of running a business, which was also a real piece of interest for me, a real part of interest for me, because more and more, as we have people from different cultures and different environments sort of coming in and working, it's important to understand how that actually operates and functions. Really looking at, what attracted me to sort of really Ivey is I think there were multiple aspects. One was the case-based method. I think the way the program sort of integrates and incorporates cases into the learning model ensures that you understand why you're learning that topic, why it matters to the business, but it also gives you a broad range of understanding of that particular topic area. And I think the other key piece was really the diversity of the learning teams and the cohort, because that really, to me, reflecting back, that's really one of the most valuable pieces, because it became your support network during the program and even after the program. So to me, those were really some of the key elements that attracted me to Ivey.
Thanks for sharing that. Kim, what about you?
Yeah, I guess when I look at my life, I've always been interested in continuous learning. 2 years ago, I took an executive program at MIT for digital strategy, and really in IT, things move so quickly, right? And you can feel kind of out of date very quickly. But my decision to enroll in the MBA was to expand my thinking. And I remember introducing myself to the professors and saying I really wanted my brain to be poked and prodded and stretched and challenged in ways, like Surya said, out of my comfort zone, right? And really, I wanted an accelerated way to launch my thinking into a new level of productivity. I'm so used to thinking within the IT space. I decided I was going to surround myself with business people from all kinds of backgrounds, and just really stretch that comfort zone. And why Ivey? I really like the case approach. I think the discussions really bring out so many different angles and facets, as Chola said, that I wouldn't be able to come up on my own, being used to my own space and my own way of thinking. I think the other thing that was really important too is the recruiting team. So Kim, folks like yourself, they were very pleasant, and they took the time to answer my questions. And that was very different from the other schools that I had looked at. And then the global aspect that Chola mentioned, the international trip to Vietnam was a big draw for me. I was born there, and I'd love to be able to, just see what, from the angle of a business, an MBA angle, to see, what the changes have been. But, with COVID, I think it was the universe's way of saying I wasn't supposed to go. So we didn't end up going. But nonetheless, of course, content, the global aspect, was also a big draw for me.
I'm sorry to hear you didn't get to go on the Discovery expedition, but I am happy to share that it is scheduled. It's been back, like the trip that is often referred to as a hallmark of the program. Modifications were made over in the last term, but come this new year in March, the return to Vietnam is scheduled. So fingers crossed that new participants are able to go, and I do hope that you get to visit sometime.
Yeah.
Kathy, can I hand it over to you? Tell us a little bit about why AMBA and why Ivey.
Yeah, first let me say, Kim, I'm very sad you didn't get to go. I went to Vietnam, and it is hands down the best trip I've ever taken in my entire life. I would love to go back with my family. It was just absolutely beautiful there. I loved it. And the people were wonderful. I loved it. So let me tell you about why I decided to do an MBA and why with Ivey. My background is very similar to Kim's and Chola's in that I started off as a programmer. I moved into project and program management and took increasingly more leadership positions as I grew up, I guess, in technology. And I found myself working for a small to medium-sized business. That's kind of where I like to work, with a very dynamic leader who was the kind that would just pull you into conversations. And I found myself in rooms with, the marketing people and the finance people. And really just being kind of like, and not really knowing how to apply a lot of what I was hearing them talk about. And what I realized is while I was really good at what I did, I just didn't have a great view of how that applied to the business growth, like how it helped to develop the business and what, strategically how to move forward with it. So I'd always wanted to do an MBA, but again, as a techie, not having one didn't prevent getting roles and from growing in leadership. But I felt like I had gotten to that point where it was kind of like, now it makes sense. And so that was really the catalyst, the thing that made me say, I need to be able I need to do this, was to be able to have those conversations and be effective in the role that I had at the time. And that was my main purpose for going into the program when I did. I chose Ivey because I looked at 3 schools in total, Ivey plus 2 others, and I audited each one. I went and sat in a class at each one. And for me, I'm a very pragmatic, very analytical, very practical person. And so the case-based learning, I know you've heard others say that, but the reality is for me, it is the best way for me to learn. It was an opportunity to just apply the things that we were learning right away in a real world situation. So I really like that. I also liked the schedule. So I looked at the 3 schools, and Ivey had the schedule that worked best for my lifestyle. Having a full-time job and a full-time family, I felt the way that the schedule was broken up allowed me to still, be at home and do things at home that I needed to do, as well as find time for coursework and not be away all the time in classes. And then from a diversity perspective, I looked at the websites of each one. And when I think when I went to the websites and looking at those past students page, it wasn't with the intention of, looking for diversity. That wasn't the intention, but I noticed it when I was on those sites that Ivey looked different than the other schools, that there was definitely, there was definitely more color and more genders represented on the Ivey website. And again, I know that's all marketing and maybe it wasn't real, but either way, it felt more like an invitation. It felt more like a place where I could kind of fit in and belong.
Thanks for sharing that. It's actually it's not just marketing. I think the diversity of industries and the diversity of people in the program is what makes it such a rich and dynamic learning experience. And actually, that's what really prompted me to host this event and a series of other events to really demonstrate that the variety of sectors and industries and backgrounds and experiences in the program, like you can look at the curriculum and think, oh, I would benefit from that, but the learning from your peers is invaluable. And so I'm glad that you got that sense before joining the program, and I hope that continued, that you're sharing it now, so it doesn't. I hope you weren't disappointed.
That's not disappointed.
Excellent. So I'm curious. We know a little bit now about how the EMBA fit into your professional plans, why it was the right time, and also why Ivey. How did you make it work? Now, Kathy, you mentioned the schedule and that you found it struck a balance so that you could, continue to thrive in your career, maintain strong family relationships, and lead a family, and also do the program. And that's something I have heard shared many times. The program schedule is really attractive because you meet once a month. So the 4 days a month, of course, that it is a stretch, but the real stretch, I think, is the time commitment outside of the in-person commitment. So on average, for anyone listening in, on average, participants dedicate about 25 hours a week to reading the cases, preparing their notes, working on individual assignments and group projects, and meeting with their learning team. And you may be thinking, that sounds impossible. I can't possibly do that amidst my personal and professional commitments. But you have 4 stellar women here who are going to share a little bit about how they did make it work. So maybe, Chola, can we start with you this time? Tell us a little bit about how you made it all work, the busy demands of the program and life.
Yeah, no, and this was, to be honest, that was one of the first things, even before I sort of signed up for this program. It was like I needed to figure out and make sure that I had at least a way that I could actually make it work with my schedule, just with a demanding job and with family and everything. And to me, I think the first and most important thing is you've got to understand that this will require commitment from you, from each one of you individually when you get into this kind of a program. But I do believe that people, who signed up for this program, they've shown a certain resiliency, and I think they've got that commitment and that will to actually do this. I think you need to be realistic, and that you need to. You're not going to necessarily have the same kind of life outside of school and work and family that you probably had before, and that is a sacrifice that you'd have to make for that 15-month period as you're sort of working through it. You have to come up with new routines, and you're going to have to decide what trade-offs you want to make. If you were used to getting up early and going for walks or exercising, or taking a later train, you've got to figure out what trade-offs you're going to make. Whether it is reading on the go train if you're commuting, or if you're taking some time in the morning to spend some time doing some reading. You need to figure out what those routines are, and each person's routine is going to be different. You've got to figure out as you step into the program what works for you, and figure out what those actual routines are. So to me, that's really what I would suggest and recommend to the teams here.
Who else has a tip or a story to share how you made it work? I know it's challenging but doable. How did you do it?
I agree with Chola. That was the first thing I had to do, was find the capacity in the calendar, which meant stepping back from some things, and I had to make some changes. But I think the bigger thing was setting expectations with the people in your life, whether it be your family members or at work or even friends, so that people understood I can't be everywhere that I was before. I can't do all the things that I did before. Even at work, I was traveling quite a bit prior to going into the program, and just kind of made it clear, like, now I have this commitment to be in class, so I can't necessarily travel to all of these places on the schedule at all, to be honest with you, because I still have lots of things to do. And so I think that's a big part of it, is really before day one of class, setting that expectation with the people in your life that things are going to be a bit different, and trying, use your support system as much as possible. I used my team at work as much as possible. My husband stepped up to the plate. My parents, sometimes my kids were on weekends, they were sleeping anywhere they could find a bed because I was in London at school. And so you just kind of have to rely on your support system and set those expectations early.
Yeah, the only one thing that I would add is, for me, finding the right tools to be able to accelerate your work is very important. For me, what is it called? Natural reader. So it's really a text-to-speech reader, but you just pay the extra $10 a month, but you are able to do the optical character recognition. So a lot of the reading materials, like for example, I scan the book in, and it can read from that picture that you scan into words. And so I just put it on my phone. I'd go for a walk with my family. Sure, I can't converse with them, but I'm out in nature with them, walk around, whatever, or do my laundry or whatever, so that I don't feel like I'm just tied to this desk. I still have somewhat of a normal life. I'm still productive in other ways. I think that's very important. And then the other thing is, the other two have talked about it. It's basically set expectations. For me, I knew that, top priority for me was family, and I wasn't going to compromise that. So, there are trade-offs. Things that are individual work, I had to accept, when is it good enough, right? I'm not going for the marks. I'm going for the learning experience, right? But, I save my best critical thinking for group work, because that's when I rely on others to teach me, and vice versa. So that's how I juggled it.
For me, definitely the key was the support system that I needed throughout the program. So I was extremely concerned as I started the program, being the head of cybersecurity in the company. I needed to be accessible and available to my team pretty much at all times. Unfortunately, you cannot really plan when cyber attackers can target your company. But fortunately that I get the support and the accommodations from both my team and my boss. So the work flexibility was the key for me, that's for sure. And similar to Kim, actually, I tried to find some tools that help me to expedite certain aspect of the studying. So some tools that reach to me. There is a lot of cases that we have to go through, a lot of supplementary materials that we have to go through, and they were all valuable. So as I was doing something else, maybe changing, maybe doing something around the house, I will have those tools reading for me. So that definitely expedite things. And again, like I couldn't emphasize more the importance of the support system, being at work or family or friends. To as everyone else already said, you're gonna have to explain to people the program require 30 hours dedicated time every week. So this 30 hours has to come from somewhere else. So you can't see your family, your friends maybe as often as you wanted to. You can't see your family members as often as you wanted to. And what makes things a little bit even more challenging was the COVID. I would say the COVID had one positive, but a lot of negatives throughout the programs. The one positive for me was the fact that I could save the commute time because we transitioned to remote work. So that's the only thing that's a little bit positive there. But it was definitely psychologically challenging because I couldn't see the people that I'm used to see as often as I need to, as often as I want to. So that was particularly challenging during that time. But we all made it. No matter what your life circumstances and life responsibilities are, there is always someone out there that will provide the support, even within the program. The faculty members, the classmates, the support was always there.
Interesting listening to each of your responses. And the thing that always comes to mind when I connect with alum who have been through the program is this idea of the support and the community. And what I always think of is when I remember when I had my daughter, and everyone said, it takes a village. And working in the executive MBA, I feel like it takes a village to raise a baby, but it also takes a village to do an executive MBA. That is all I think about when I hear about like the community and the support. So it's nice to hear you were each able to tap into supports in your network. And it sounds like it's such a critical piece to success. Sarah, you ended your comment by saying, but we made it. And so on that note, thinking back to the program, what would each of you say is your biggest accomplishment or your biggest takeaway and your proudest accomplishment from doing the executive MBA? Maybe it is that you did it, right? Like, and that's 2 thumbs up, like that deserves a celebration. But if there's anything more specific, what is your biggest takeaway from the program?
I can start with that. So for me, the biggest accomplishment was when I received the Ivey Scholar Award. That was such a humbling moment. I didn't think that I will be able to accomplish that. So that definitely was the proudest moment, one of the proudest moments for me in my life, actually. But also the takeaway out of the program is I learned how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. It sounds weird, but really the program creates such a unique experience that puts you through a series of challenges. And that might feel frustrating at some times, but at the end of the road, you will see the value of it. As everyone else had already shared, we all come from a technical background and we have a specific area of expertise that we are comfortable with. But then all of a sudden you are tasked with working on a project for marketing and working on a project for finance and then working on another project for accounting. And before you finish one, the other one comes along. And then with tough deadlines, it's just one after the other. And all these experiences were uncomfortable, but then you learn how to be comfortable with them. And with the fact that with all the time pressure and all the topics and all the projects that you're not even familiar with that you have to work on, you're working with people that you just met a few months ago. So the people aspect, that adds a different layer of challenges, but also a different layer of value or really return on the investment in the whole program.
Thank you. Thanks for getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. That is a really big takeaway. And congratulations on your award. Chola, what about you? What comes to mind when you're fresh out of the program? And so you haven't even conferred, right? It's coming up in October, so next month. So when you think back to that recent memory, what of the blur of the program, what was your biggest proudest accomplishment and biggest takeaway?
I think that my proudest sort of accomplishment or takeaway that I would look at it is I think I've become a more well-rounded leader and probably a better person. I think I have more of an appreciation of the broader aspects of a business. And it's not just that, but even looking at the more of the macroeconomic sort of environments and how as a leader you are actually to some degree a bit of a custodian of the communities, and how do you continue to help shape that next generation of our workforce or help develop them. I think I've almost become like a better person and a better leader coming out of the program. So to me, that's probably my biggest takeaway and my biggest accomplishment, I think I would say.
That's great. Kathy, Kim, any takeaways and accomplishments that you can speak to?
Well, for me, the accomplishment is when people do ask me what my biggest accomplishment is in my career, I say, completing the Ivey MBA, EMBA while working full time and being a mother. That is a big, massive accomplishment in itself. And so I acknowledge it in that way. But the takeaway for me is that I think I not even walked away. I think after somewhere in the first term of the program, I just kind of came to the awareness that I am really talented. And I know it sounds kind of arrogant to say it, but it's kind of intimidating coming into that room in the very beginning, in that, I'm a techie and there are people in here who are in banking or in strategic roles and whatnot. And I think coming in at first, I was kind of like, what have I done? I don't know if that's the imposter syndrome thing, but it was kind of like, what have I done? And I wasn't participating as much in the very beginning because I always felt like nobody really needs to hear what I want to say. And then somebody would say exactly what I was about to say. And then it was like, that's what I was going to say. And so I think my confidence really grew. I would not say I was not a confident person coming into it, but I think by the time I got through the program, my confidence actually grew in such a way that I feel like I can walk into any room and not feel uncomfortable and not feel like I don't belong or not feel like everybody here is going to have better and more valuable input than I do. I can acknowledge now that my input is actually really valuable and I know what I'm talking about and I'm really talented. And I can say that without feeling arrogant about it because I feel like it's the truth now versus before where it was just kind of like, let me wait and see what the room gives off before I speak up,
Yeah.
That's an amazing takeaway. So, and kudos to you for going through that process and owning it and speaking up. So great. That's amazing. Kim, what about you?
Kathy, I don't know if you saw, I was like, yeah, and with what Chola said in terms of being a better leader, a more conscientious, mindful leader, Surah, the discomfort, I felt all of that too, being better at being uncomfortable, right? And, I went into their IT mindset, right? I knew nothing about finances or, there were people in banking who could answer questions and who could engage in the conversation with the prof. But like Kathy, you've got a good head on your shoulders. You could think critically just like everybody else, right? And you're just as talented. So, I had to work harder on the finance modules, shamefully and proudly. I read the finance book cover to cover twice. I'm not gonna, be ashamed to admit that, but I mastered it. And I came out of there, one of my higher marks was finance. And who would have thought, right? So really you can do anything. And final confirmation was when I was talking to one of the profs about one of the job description, I had, hoped to, just kind of branch into this area. And she said, why can't you do that? You've got a master's degree. You've shown the critical thinking. Why would you not qualify? And it, I had to think about that. And yeah, you feel more confident. You realize your potential. You're no longer in this little IT box anymore.
That's awesome to hear how everyone's really grown through their program. And Kathy, I loved what you said. Like, I've heard this so many times that the confidence that comes from the program is immeasurable. But what is so fascinating, and you said this directly, like you weren't lacking confidence, like you were confident coming into the program, but to be able to elevate and escalate even further, that's so remarkable. And yeah, it just gives me goosebumps. So thanks for sharing, each of you. I'm curious now, we have folks joining that have logged on to hear you speak, and this will be shared on our website down the road. If you were to speak to other women in tech who are thinking about the program, what's your biggest piece of advice? What is your food for thought, or what would be your advice going forward for other women in tech?
For me, it's yes, you can. You can absolutely do it. Every reason that you're putting in front of you right now to say why you can't do it, the four of us have already had that. We thought the same. And I've spoken to other women who've gone through the program. We've all thought the same. Yes, you can find the capacity. Yes, you are smart enough. Yes, you're gonna, get through it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We did it. And you're hearing from us. There's nothing different about the four of us than any other woman who feels like they're ready for the program. I think the fact is we put up these walls. I think as women especially, we think about all these priorities we have, and we tend to put everyone else in our lives first, our jobs, our families, etc., and how much they need us. And the reality is, your kids are not going to dislike you or not love you anymore because you went and did an MBA. You're not going to lose your job because you went and did an MBA. The reality is people will understand and they will support you with it. You can do it.
Yeah, I would echo that. I would say, don't second guess yourself, like don't feel that, hey, it's been a long break. I haven't been to school for like 20 years. How can I actually do it? Don't second guess yourself. We have the resiliency to take this on. And I would say, just go ahead and take it on, In fact, I would go out to say, Kathy, like your teams or your family will sometimes even look up to you as a role model to say, hey, look, there's someone over there who could actually balance all of this and actually do it. I've had people from my team say, how did you do it, with a demanding job and do it? They're like in a bit of an awe. And it's actually inspired people to go on and take on more continuing education opportunities within my own team. So you could almost use it as, as a way to even motivate your own teams at work. So that's what I would leave you with.
I would also echo the same sentiment. Don't hesitate, just pursue the program. It's an amazing life experience. If you really take advantage of it, you will come out of it as a new person with a new perspective. You will be working closely with 50 other classmates, people from different backgrounds, different life experiences. You will learn a lot from them. You will get inspired by them, influenced by them. That really what makes this entire program such an amazing experience. And we are women in IT. We are being challenged every day. So this is really not that much different. Yeah, it's a bigger challenge, but I'm sure you can do it. And we are here. I personally, you have you can see my contact on LinkedIn. Reach out. We can chat more about it. You have more questions. Happy to answer any question. Happy to provide all the tips and tricks and everything that you need for your success. It's a great program. It's totally worth it. Just do it.
Yeah, I echo what Suraj just said. We're here. Reach out. If you have any questions, I would say that, know for yourself why you entered the program. What's the learning you're looking for? Your classmates and profs, they come from different backgrounds, very diverse, so you won't agree with all their points of view. but learn to sift through the discussions and get what you need out of it. And then don't let the rest distract or discourage you. Don't let that voice say, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I don't know this. You heard it from us today. We've gone through a really big transition. We all can do it.
That's so, Sarah, you used the word inspire. You said you'll be inspired, and I feel inspired listening to each of you, giving the vote of confidence to women in tech, all women, to pursue, to invest in themselves and pursue higher education and the Executive MBA. And I'm so grateful to hear each of your experiences in the program and advice. I'd love to open it up to questions. There's a Q&A option to type in a question if anyone would like to pick the brains of our terrific panelists. And if I appreciate also each of you kind of nodding or saying, like, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to make those connections. If obviously jot the names down of these terrific powerhouse women. But if anytime you're like, oh shoot, I didn't catch the full name, reach out to me and I'm happy to make put you in touch. Gonna see if there's no questions yet. We'll give it a few moments and then and feel free, everyone on the panel, if there was anything you didn't get the chance to share or wanted to add, please feel free to chime in. I see we have a question pop up here. So Padma's asking, how did the program help to get in the next step in your career? Can anyone speak to that?
Yeah, I'll answer. So, well, I'll start. Everybody can answer. So while I was in the program, I noticed this for quite a few of my classmates. Before we even graduated, people were starting to get new positions and moving up. So I entered the program as a director and I left in a vice president position at the same workplace. And part of the reason why was because I made an effort to use what we were learning in those monthly sessions right away. So if we learned it, I went to London or we were in class in Toronto, I came back and I would reach out to like my marketing team and be like, hey, do you have, competitive analysis and can I review it? Can I see it? And I think that just kind of opened the door to other people and other leaders realizing like there was more capability growing within me. And so it began right away. The other thing it did for me, like I said, from a confidence perspective, was I've always said to people, like, I don't ever want to be a C-level anything. And I never really considered being a C-level. I just didn't want to. Like, who would want that job was my thinking. But I feel now that I've had this experience, I still don't want to be a C-level anything. But now I know I'm completely capable of doing it. I could be a C-level fill in the blank, because now I have the skills for it. So now the path for me is different in that I don't feel like there's an end of the road. I don't ever have to take a C-level position, but I'm still on that path that would lead me to it if I wanted to.
I would add briefly to that, really the visibility aspect to this. So not only the fact that now we have actually an extended Ivey Alumni network that we can connect with, and we expanded our professional network throughout the program. But also the fact that, exactly as Kathy's mentioned, as soon as you start applying the learning in your job, in your workplace, reach out to people from different departments within the company, you will become more visible within the workplace that you are in, and that will open up more opportunities for you. So really, apply the learning. It's really a key. And then at a certain point, we all talked about the competence, the confidence. I think also the confidence that comes with, I call it the humble confidence, which is basically not only I'm in the room thinking, I'm at the same level as everybody else is in this room and I can contribute and can add value, but also you think, oh, how can I help those around me to achieve their next level of career advancement, their next level of professional development. So you will have the insight, or it will kind of open up the insight, or it kind of open up the vision for you to be able not to only to help yourself, but to help people around you.
Chola and Kim, do you have anything to add there? Have there been, do you see a path from the program, or has there been change already? Or what would you say in response to the question in terms of how the program's impacted your career?
I think for me, my role has expanded. I've gotten a raise. I am in discussion for, track for a promotion. So yeah, I definitely think the opportunities open up. But I think it's like what Sura and Kathy said, apply the learning. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that I would add is like I purposely chose, like, I didn't want to move during the program because I just wanted to focus on the program itself, just with all the other demands, and that was really a personal choice. But what I do find is that, like what I mentioned earlier, like I think I've become a better person, a better leader, and I think I have more of an appreciation of what the role of a leader is in organizations. But what that has led to is having more opportunities to participate in different type of conversations and discussions with different parts of the organization at different levels. And I think having that confidence, to what even Kathy emphasized, that confidence of being part of that discussion and being able to participate in that discussion, I think has really impacted me in my career.
Right, thank you. Chola, I laughed a bit, Kathy, because you said, well, I chose not to make a change in the program, but Kathy, you started by saying, I was promotable in the program, and I'm sure you're just like, it was probably, I love the expression, like drinking from the fire hose. It's like, ah!
Yeah, I always thought people who in the program who took new jobs at new organizations were completely insane. Like, how are you going to do that? At least my promotion was within the same organization. So Chola, I totally understand taking on a new role during the program does sound like a lot. Changing organizations, I think, is like,
yeah,
there's commitment that your organization needs to show you as well in order to allow you to work through the program, that I think to my changing organizations is a tough thing to do during the program.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny, I was in London a couple of weeks ago because the September class began. And so I was at the Spencer Leadership Center meeting all of the candidates in person for the first time as they kicked off their executive MBA journey. Actually, I met Chola there, which was so lovely. We were able to connect with the incoming participants. But one of the pieces of advice on the very first night was, we're not going to tell you what to do, but we recommend, like, don't move, don't get married, don't have a baby, like, try to avoid any major life changes, because this already is such a major life change. But the reality is, and Kathy, you are an example, like, it happens all the time. And it's all overwhelming, and then it's over in a blink, and we're nothing if not like resilient and strong and excellent time managers. So it's doable. I saw there's a question about how executive education can add value to someone who's completed an MBA. I think Kim, you touched on. I don't know that I'm happy to speak offline. It was an anonymous question, but feel free to reach out to me, and I can share some executive programming options through the Ivey Academy. But Kim, you touched on early on in this session about your lifelong learning journey and how this really fit into your goal as a lifelong learner. I'm curious, maybe as a twist to that question, do each of you see yourselves continuing to commit to learning from this big achievement, having earned the MBA? Do you see yourself continuing to pursue additional education, maybe unique courses or certificates? I'm wondering what you have to say about that.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I'm already checking out another website, just because, again, like the confidence that I gained in the finance, domain. I could share the name of the professor. I cannot recall it right now, but he's basically posted his courses online for free around, finance and, evaluating companies and that kind of thing. So it's gotten me interested in that kind of thing that I've never been interested in before. But in terms of, I think I don't really know, the regular MBA program, but I would say that right now, myself and my peers, I think coming from the position of, having been leaders in either enterprise or started our own business, that kind of thing, I think we have a very different angle or perspective on the discussions, on the analysis. Yeah, that's what I would guess.
I would say, we just witnessed over the last 3 years, 2.5 years, the world changed dramatically. And as I mentioned, I graduated. Our last set of classes was January 2020. And then there was a pandemic immediately. And so we were fortunate enough to get an additional, not in the curriculum, extra economics class that was basically about what might happen next, or what might we see based on the pandemic. And that was just two years ago. Today, it's a different conversation. So I think even for somebody who has completed an MBA already, there's always some top-up courses. I know you mentioned, Kim, the Ivey Academy, where as the world changes, as the economy changes, as global business changes, that I could definitely see myself continuing to take refresher courses or updated courses, because there's just so much. And again, as a techie, I focus on technical training and understanding. Again, I'm in cyber, like Sura, understanding what's changing and the advancements in that area. I'm not staying on top of what's happening, what the economists are saying or whatnot. And so it might be beneficial every couple of years even to take a program or a course or something to get caught up.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. There are a number of topics that I think the evolution or the advancement of those topics have evolved significantly in the last couple of years. ESG, for example. When we started the program, there wasn't that much of emphasis on ESG, but now Ivey added a course just on ESG, and we got a glimpse of that. But that's definitely one of the courses that I would go back and take on. I think after the pandemic, right now, what we are experiencing is a defining moment in leadership. As you see people or the companies going back to a new form of normality that really nobody knows what that's going to end up being, what that's going to look like. There is you hear a lot about a lot of debates between the workforce going back to the office or continuing on working remotely. So there is a lot of things that changing in the business world, and with that, I think the thought process, the logics, the things that used to be normal business practice before might change, and it's changing right now, and it might change even further in the coming years. So definitely the MBA or the program that we finished wasn't really the end. It was, I think, it's more of a beginning, because now we just have a little bit of, we get a little bit of everything. We know now accounting, finance, economics, ESG, all these topics. But each one of those topics is a big field, and it depends on your interest. You might want to pursue one of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, I think doing the program actually gave me back a bit of that bug of, continuous, actually doing an actual degree program again, it almost energized me to keep that continuous learning going. And being in technology, you're always learning. Technology keeps changing. You're always learning in different ways. I think doing this type of a formal education, I think really, first of all, gave me the confidence that it can be done, and also it really energized me that I would want to do something else again. And that's the way I see the world today.
That's awesome. That's awesome that it's inspired and ignited so much energy and passion to keep learning, keep growing. But thank you for the already very important work you do, and for sharing your insights and expertise today. I'm so grateful for your time, and hope that we can continue this conversation in years to come, and as we continue to watch your careers evolve and you evolve as lifelong learners. So thank you so much to Kathy, Kim, Chola, and Sarah. Thank you for being part of today's panel. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon.